of Timor-Leste to India, and then Ambassador Jayant Khobragade, our ambassador to Asean, and now, of course, he's going on a next assignment. And then it'll be Ambassador Rathmani, ambassador of Cambodia. And finally, with Mr. Jerome Wong, Council Political, from the Consulate of Singapore in Mumbai. That would be the order. And so, without wasting more time, I just want to kickstart this discussion. Your Excellency, you can come here if you wish. Yes, thank you.
So first of all, good morning, sawadika, and namaskar to everybody. Yeah. So, Your Excellency, Priti Saran, former Secretary East, my colleagues, ambassadors, and high commissioners, representatives from Singapore's Consulate General, and every youth delegates here. So it's very honor for me to join all of you today to reflect on the ASEAN-Indian partnership and particularly to focus on its most vital foundation, that is our people and especially our youth. I will structure my remarks around three key points. One, ASEAN's vision on community building. Two, Thailand's role in advancing ASEAN-India partnership. And three, the way forward in strengthening our people-to-people and youth partnerships. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, since its founding in Bangkok in 1967, ASEAN has placed people at the core of our community building agenda. Beyond political and economic framework, the socio-cultural pillar grounded in education, cultural exchange, and social development remains crucial in nurturing trust and solidarity across our region. For Thailand, a strong ASEAN must be not only a regional bloc, but a community where people truly feel connected. India and ASEAN share deep historical and cultural bonds. Our partnership is not limited to trade routes or strategic dialogues. It also lives through the shared learning, creativity, and people-to-people ties. Thailand has consistently supported initiatives such as the India-Myanmar-Thailand Trilateral Highways and Mekong-Kongkha Cooperation in order to not only link our economies but also to link our people. And yet, Excellencies, we must also recognize a challenge closer at our home. Recent tensions between Thailand and Cambodia have reminded us how fragile people-to-people trust can be. Political and territorial disputes, if left unresolved, can spill over into society and even generate hostility between our communities. Such resentment, if passed on, risks shaping how our young generations perceive each other with long-lasting consequences. This is where ASEAN's socio-cultural vision becomes most relevant. To heal divisions and restore goodwill, we must invite our youth exchanges, cultural dialogue, and joint community projects. Only by bringing young Thais and Cambodians together in a venue like this, or in the classrooms, or innovation hubs, sports fields, and cultural spaces, can we ensure that they grow up seeing each other not as adversaries, but partners or amigos. So here, India can play a very constructive role with its long-standing cultural links to both Thailand and Cambodia, and its experience in nurturing youth-driven development. India is well placed to act as bridge of understanding. By expanding trilateral youth programs, be it through scholarships, through student exchanges, through innovation challenges or cultural festivals, India can help create neutral platform where Thai and Cambodian youth engage together, learn together, and build trust together. In this way, India is not only ASEAN comprehensive strategic partner, but also a catalyst for reconciliation, helping our young people move beyond the shadows of conflict and towards a future of cooperation. Excellencies, our youth delegates, nearly two-thirds of our combined ASEAN and Indian populations are youth. They are not only the leaders of tomorrow, they are already innovators, change makers, and community builders today. The ASEAN-Indian partnership will remain vibrant only if it continues to invest in them. Thailand stands ready to play its part as a founding member of ASEAN, as a bridge between South and Southeast Asia, and as a country committed to fostering genuine reconciliation and cooperation in our neighborhood. The way forward is clear. Build trust through people and build the future from our youth. Together with India, we can overcome divisions, restore goodwill among our neighbors, and ensure that the ASEAN-India partnership is anchored not only in strategy, but in solidarity. Dhanyawad. Thank you so much. ขอบคุณมากค่ะ
Thank you, Your Excellency, for this excellent presentation. Brief but very succinct. So thank you so much for that. About being the bridge builder, I think Thailand is a very good example. And then ASEAN itself of resolving conflict. The ASEAN way has always been through consensus and goodwill. And I'm sure that that will prevail even in your current tensions. And of course, we'll have Her Excellency as well share her thoughts about it. But I would say that as far as Thailand is concerned, there is a lot that we can learn, apart from our civilizational linkages with Thailand. You have done exceedingly well in tourism. And tourism is a great employment generator and a great bridge builder at the people-to-people level. And I think perhaps the Indian tourists are the largest chunk of tourists that go to your beautiful country. And we have certainly very beautiful venues for tourism. Of course, the Buddhist sites in India have been a major attraction for Thailand and for other ASEAN countries. But we have other assets as well, including our traditional cultural knowledge and Ayurveda and yoga and others. But I think we could still learn a lot from Thailand on hospitality. So that is an important element where we have a lot of admiration. And you, not just as an ambassador, but as someone who has taken so much interest in cultural connectivity, I think your thoughts were very useful. For us, for the Indian members of our delegation in particular, I would now like to invite His Excellency Dato Muzaffar Shah Mustafa, High Commissioner of Malaysia to Thailand. Your Excellency, you've been here since 2023, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts of your experience, of course in India-Malaysia relations, but as the present chair of ASEAN, certainly what is it that you feel India and ASEAN should be doing together to take this relationship forward? So, Your Excellency, you have the floor. Thank you.
Ambassador Priti Saran, former Secretary East, Excellencies, distinguished panelists on the dais, participants of ASEAN-India Youth Summit, ladies and gentlemen, selamat pagi, good morning, and namaskar. At the outset, let me begin by thanking India Foundation and also Ministry of External Affairs of India and other collaborators in making this gathering possible. I'm delighted that I've been invited to be part of this gathering. I noticed that the program is very comprehensive, that the various sessions has been arranged, and I hope all the participants will be greatly benefit of all the sessions that we are having during this gathering. Before I go further, let me first also touch about Malaysia's chairmanship of ASEAN 2025. I'd like to bring your attention that currently Malaysia is the chair of ASEAN. It coincides with the 10th anniversary of ASEAN community and the completion of ASEAN Vision 2025. And during the last summit, we have seen the adoption of the ASEAN Community Vision 2045 at the 46th ASEAN Summit in Kuala Lumpur. So what I'm trying to convey is that under the Malaysia's chairmanship, we have set the theme of our chairmanship, inclusivity and sustainability. This also shows that we have given also the importance of youth in ASEAN community building, where youth make up of the largest demographic group of ASEAN. More than 230 million people are under 35. So under our inclusivity theme means giving every young person a voice regardless of gender, socio-economic background and also the locality. So I have set our priorities in strengthening regional peace and unity through trust, dialogue and shared values, deepening economic and digital integration, embracing innovation and resilience, and embedding inclusivity and sustainability across regional initiatives from development to climate action so that no community is left behind. So in October this year, we are very excited to welcome new member of ASEAN, Timor-Leste. We hope with the inclusion of Timor-Leste, it will bring new vibrancy to ASEAN community building. Ladies and gentlemen, let me also share today how Malaysia gives importance to youth development through all the policies that set by the government. In Malaysia, empowering youth remains at the heart of Malaysia's national agenda. We have taken bold steps to give young people a stronger voice and greater opportunities to shape our shared future. This is under the Malaysian National Youth Policy 2015 and 2035, where we set the framework for youth development in Malaysia. The target group are youth between 50 to 30 years of our population. It was redefined it used to be from 15 to 40. Now it becomes, the youth group become younger. The vision is to develop youth who are holistic, progressive, patriotic, united, entrepreneurial, and globally competitive, with the core principles of inclusivity, volunteerism, sustainability, empowerment, and leadership. These are achieved by giving emphasis on key focus areas, namely education and lifelong learning, skills and employability, health and well-being, civic participation and leadership, volunteerism and social responsibility, as well as entrepreneurship and economic opportunities. In Malaysia, since the last election, we have amended our constitution by lowering the voting age to 18. This, with the introduction of Vote 18, we have introduced and bringing additional 5.8 million new young voters in our democracy. This was a historic milestone that permanently transformed Malaysia's political landscape. At the cabinet level, we have established a youth development committee chaired by the Deputy Prime Minister to ensure coordination across ministries and to place youth at the center of policy making. In terms of the government's policies, youth policies, we have various consultative platforms under the Ministry of Youth and Sports. For example, like the Malaysian Youth Council, National Youth Consultative Body, Youth Parliament, Institute of Youth Research. These are some of the main consultative mechanisms in ensuring youth voices and research fit directly into Malaysia's youth development policies. Malaysia has also launched the Malaysian Youth Policy as a comprehensive framework for youth development and introduced the Madani Youth Development Model 2030, which focuses on quality education, entrepreneurship, well-being and active youth participation in governance. This is part of Malaysia Madani agenda set by the government in driving Malaysia's progress and nation building. Together, these initiatives reflect Malaysia's unwavering commitment to ensuring that youth play a meaningful and transformative role in our democracy, economy, and society. The challenges of our era, from climate change and technological disruption to economic uncertainty, demand that we prepare our youth not just with technical competence, but also with adaptability, compassion, and leadership. Malaysia is committed to nurturing a generation that is innovative, resilient, and globally minded, while remaining rooted in values that promote harmony and respect. In this regard, we also see youth development as an area for international cooperation by sharing experiences, exchanging best practices, and providing opportunities for cross-border collaboration. We can strengthen the capacity of our youth to be not just national leaders, but regional and global change makers. This is where I see initiative like this is the step in the right direction in building bridges between the youth of ASEAN and India. The ASEAN-India Youth Summit, since its inception in 2017, has provided dynamic dialogues and promote connectivity, sustainable development, digital innovation, and cultural exchange. This youth summit is more than a forum. It is a platform where young change makers from ASEAN and India come together to collaborate, to network, and to forge a shared vision for a resilient and prosperous future. In this edition, 5th edition, with the theme Connecting the Youth, Shaping Our Future, the summit will serve as a launch pad for idea sharing and leadership development, nurturing a new generation of leaders committed to strengthening ASEAN-India cooperation. This youth engagement directly supports the ASEAN-India Plan of Action 2026-2030, which was adopted recently, that places strong emphasis on education, skills, and cultural exchange. In closing, I can sum up by saying that youth are the bridge for future of ASEAN-India partnership. With that, I thank you. Dhanyavad.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for sharing your thoughts. I have to say that when I was in my official capacity dealing with our relations with Malaysia, there were a lot of dynamic things that happened. And I think in terms of infrastructure that you have created in your own country was something where we were very keen to collaborate with, and I hope that can be taken forward. The other aspect about India-Malaysia relations in particular, and of course all of ASEAN in general, is that people of Indian descent in Malaysia have been a major bridge between our two countries, and I hope that in your delegation too we have youth with Indian descent, because then they are able to bring the best of both worlds, and they would also be the future of our relationship. So thank you so much for that. A third aspect which struck me very much about Malaysia was the fact that we had started to explore new areas of cooperation. And I think technology and information technology was one, defense cooperation was the other, and I'm sure you've taken it forward even further. So those are other areas specifically in our bilateral relations, as well in India-ASEAN relations, I think will take things forward. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. I would now request Ambassador Carlito Nunes from Timor-Leste to kindly take the floor. Timor-Leste is the most recent member of ASEAN to be formally inducted in October. I think as observer country, you have been observing the processes within ASEAN, and with India, of course, we have very special relations. You're here in Goa. You will see very visibly the very strong Portuguese influence that is there in your country as well as in Goa, and look forward to listening to your thoughts about both how we can take forward India relations with Timor-Leste as well, your contribution as the newest member of ASEAN. You have the floor, Excellency.
Namaskar, bon dia, very good morning for everyone. It is a great honor for me to speak in this great occasion. Excellencies, ambassadors, distinguished guests on the dais and also of the dais. It is a privilege and a great honor for me to speak before you all. On behalf of the government of Timor-Leste, I would like to express our deep appreciation to the government of India, ASEAN Secretariat, Asia and India Foundations, inviting a Timor-Leste delegation to participate in this great platform. This is the first time Timor-Leste youth delegation participate in the 5th ASEAN India Youth Summit in Goa. Timor-Leste formally submitted our application to ASEAN membership. Since then, with humility and preference, and with the firm and generous support of your fellow member states, we have been preparing institutionally, technically, politically, to fulfill our obligation inherent to our accession. This is one of the most significant milestones in our regional integration, that Timor-Leste is expected to become the 11th permanent member of ASEAN at the upcoming ASEAN Summit on 26 October 2025 in Kuala Lumpur, after nearly 14 years since the country applied for its membership in 2011. In this context, I wish to convey my profound gratitude to all ASEAN leaders, the government and the people in all respectful countries. Each of every one of you steadfast political and technical support extended to us over the years by ASEAN member states throughout the process that culminate our full accession to the ASEAN. Allow me to reiterate our deep gratitude for the consistent and unwavering political support of your respective leaders and government, as well as valuable technical and capacity-building assistance offered to Timorese institutions and public administration throughout this process. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in Timor-Leste, we have a national youth policy set ambitious objectives for assisting young people, providing them with opportunities and supporting their bright future. With the majority of the population of Timor-Leste below the age of 25, investment in the youth sector are considered highly strategic priority for the state, and this national youth policy is the framework that guides effective interventions. To achieve this objective, the 9th government of Timor-Leste upgraded the Secretary of Youth to the Ministry of Youth, Sport and Culture. Timor-Leste is young and growing. Across the growing force, median age is 19 years, over 60% population under 25. Opportunity to build capacity through scaling programs and educational partnership. The ongoing collaboration between Timor-Leste and India under the wider framework of the Indian Technical and Economic Cooperation, ITEC. Timor-Leste greatly values Indians' long-standing support and welcomes the development of Indian technical and experts from Delhi to Dili, carry out the necessary work jointly with Timor-Leste counterpart on the details planned on the implementation of the Center of Excellence in Information and Technology. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, this conversation is more than a gathering. It is a call for networking and allyship, where young leaders from ASEAN region and India can find strength in one another's commitment and innovative ideas. We know that the path of the sustainable future is one we must walk together. Together, we will foster our connection and solidarity across the border and across the region. In the end, I want to borrow Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi's word. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam Bakam. The world is one family. Namaskar.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and thank you for kindly acknowledging India's ITEC program, which I'm happy to hear you found very beneficial. We have, of course, very proudly undertake that program along with our other development cooperation programs with other parts of the world, but specifically with ASEAN. I think we've had some very good experiences. So thank you for acknowledging and recognizing that. Our next speaker, I would request Ambassador Jayant Khobragade to kindly share his thoughts. I met him this morning briefly, and he is on his way to another ambassadorial assignment. But I asked him how did he find his experience as ambassador of India to ASEAN, and he said it is perhaps the best job that he's ever had to do. And this is against his most varied experience. And I would second that, because I too have had the privilege of serving my country in different positions. But my dealings with the ASEAN countries, I think, have been the most pleasurable part of my diplomatic assignment. And I credit that to, of course, the people from the ASEAN countries. Apart from your strength, your wisdom, your resilience, I think your courtesy and your ability to make people very comfortable, very welcome, and your friendliness towards India, I think, is something that I have always cherished, and I'm sure Ambassador Khobragade will also share that with you. Yesterday, he was very much part of your cultural program. Unlike perhaps other Indians, he did not have the inhibition because he just felt very free. I think he just felt he's part of the family, the larger India-ASEAN family. So, Ambassador, you have the floor, please.
Namaskar, good morning, Salamat Pagi. So thank you so much, Ambassador Preeti Saran. I'm also very happy to see Suresh Prabhu sir, and I also saw Amaya, around. My former boss, Ambassador Jaideep Majumdar is also here. Distinguished panelists, distinguished ambassadors, and members of Youth Summit. I'm so happy to be here, although, I have relinquished my job in the first week of August, and I came back to Delhi, transiting for my next posting, but I requested, for my ministry, if I could participate, and I really thank Dr. Ram Madhav, General Co-Chair, for inviting me for the Youth Summit. In fact, I have been fully involved in the preparation for, 2023 Youth Summit, the 4th edition, and the 5th edition. I have always been in touch with India Foundation, also, giving some ideas how to structure the program, etc. Most of the things about ASEAN-India relationship, I have already spoken about, and I don't have much to add. But, let me put the things in the perspective in which, we at the mission, looked at the relationship and worked, accordingly. So as all of us know, as soon as, Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, he assumed the office, during his first tenure, he made a qualitative shift in our relationship with ASEAN. Our policy changed from, early 90s of look east to the act east policy. So it has basically four important elements, the commerce, culture, connectivity, and capacity building. And then apart from this, Ambassador Ina has already mentioned, and other speakers also have mentioned about the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative. So these two are the broad policy frameworks. But what is the importance of ASEAN? Our leadership, have been consistent in saying that ASEAN is at the heart of, India's Act East policy. Okay, this is at the policy levels, but it has to come onto the ground. Look at the seriousness with which our leadership, have been approaching to ASEAN. Prime Minister Modi himself, he has led, 11 ASEAN-India summits. He has participated in 11 ASEAN-India summits and 9 East Asia summits. So after, His Excellency, the King of Brunei, Prime Minister Modi Sahab is the most experienced, when it comes to the East Asia summit process. And even at the other ministerial level, at the foreign ministers level, at defense ministers level, our participation has been very, very consistent. And as Ambassador Jaideep Majumdar has said that this is not only ASEAN-India relationship. ASEAN has different mechanisms: East Asia Summit process, ASEAN Regional Forum, ADMM Plus, that is Defense Ministers Meeting Plus, and expanded Maritime Forum. And India has always been participating in all these mechanisms. Now, this is about, the political orientation, but how does it, translate further into action? So, the trade figures were quoted that, India's ranking, for not the last year, but before that, 2 previous financial years, ASEAN was the second largest trading partner of India. Last year, it is 4th largest. But, it's about ranking, it's one thing, but it's, 10 to 12% of India's global trade has been consistently happening with ASEAN, and that's, quite substantial. If you look at India's trade basket of, 1.1 trillion, basically there are 4 groups, one is ASEAN, European Union, China, and the United States, all in the range of 120 to 130 billion US dollars. In addition to this, and which dimension is going to become more and more important, is trade in services. We don't have the latest figures, but in 23, it was already $30 billion, and I'm sure that, it is increasing more. So, we are talking about, total trade in goods and services up to $150 billion. And it was mentioned yesterday about the investment. It's mainly because of Singapore, but more than 20% of, investment into India comes from ASEAN, that is $156 billion. And similarly, India's outbound investment, so around 20% of India's outbound investment also goes to ASEAN, but also mainly because of Singapore. It needs diversification. That is another 56 billion. Ambassador Preeti Saran has mentioned about one very important aspect, which is tourism. Now, for, all except for 2 countries, there is a direct connectivity, air connectivity between ASEAN and India. Now, Vietnam is a bright example that post-COVID, they started a direct flight, and now we have, 86 flights per week between Vietnam and India. Then, if you look at the figures, ASEAN is a very popular destination for Indian tourists. Like last year, 6 million Indian tourists traveled to ASEAN, which is, India is not very outbound traveling country. So 29 million, traveled abroad. So 20% of Indian tourists, they visited ASEAN member states. And similarly, out of first 10 tourist sending countries, there are 2 countries, Malaysia, of course, it ranks 6th, and Singapore 10th. They send tourists to India. Now, if you add the dimension of India's diaspora, So around 6.5 million of India's diaspora, they live in the ASEAN member states. So that is out of 36 million of India's total diaspora. So we are talking about roughly 16% of India's diaspora living. So if you look at, and of course, Ambassador Jaideep Majumdar already has said about, 1700 kilometer long boundary, land boundary with Myanmar and, maritime boundary with, number of ASEAN member states. So if you look, holistically at these figures, then probably ASEAN-India relationship could be among the top, with any regions, compared to any regions in the world. Now, this relationship does not stop only at the ASEAN-India mechanisms. One example is, for example, it is India's initiative, IPOI, and there is, ASEAN's initiative, OIP. So we have a joint statement and we do joint activities. There are 3 ASEAN members, who have, decided to join on, each pillar of, there are 7 pillars of Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative. So there are 3 countries from ASEAN, Indonesia, Singapore, and Thailand. They have decided to choose. Then there is overlapping membership. We already talked about it, whether it is BRICS or BIMSTEC, the cooperation also happens. When, the Voice of Global South Summit happened, so 7 of the 10 ASEAN member states, they participated at a very high level. In fact, when we have difficult situation, now we don't talk about that group that much, but it was mentioned, in the previous session, non-aligned movement. So we still coordinate, our approaches on that. So, our relationship goes beyond the ASEAN-India framework. Of course, since youth is around, I must also talk. Okay, before coming to youth, I also mentioned about the defense and strategic dimension. See, we have become, comprehensive strategic partner, but it's not only words, So in the previous session, India's support to Myanmar was mentioned. Of course, and when it comes to, any kind of disaster relief, addressing that kind of issue, whether it was Yagi typhoon in Vietnam and then, earthquake in Myanmar. So India is the first responder. Then, we are also having cooperation in transnational crime, especially related to cyber security, cyber-related matters. And then, for the first time in May 2023, we had ASEAN-India maritime exercise. Then, we also had ASEAN-India bilateral defense ministers meeting in 2022. So we are also developing the strategic dimension. So since youth is here, let me mention that, we do a lot of activities to bring youth, because, we have the civilizational past, all of us know, but it's, we are also duty bound to, pass it on to the next generation. And with keeping that in view, we have been consistently organizing few activities. ASEAN-India Music Festival, then there's, of course, the ASEAN-India Youth Summit, then we have ASEAN-India Artist Camp, and we also do it on the technical side, which is, ASEAN-India Startup Festival, and then we also have modified it, and, we call it as ASEAN-India Scale Hub Festival. Then we do, this grassroots innovation program, where, basically all these programs are youth-oriented. Now, yesterday there was a session about, the youth should bring energy to, various dimensions of life, whether it is politics or culture, etc. So I also appeal to all of you, now, all these projects which I have mentioned, they have done by 35 plus people, so they have been, designed and implemented by 35 plus people, so according to the definition of youth, they have not been done by the youth, strictly speaking, within that definition. So I appeal to all of you that, you design projects, you look at the projects, I mean, everything is available, in the public domain. And when we have the next, ASEAN-India Youth Summit, I wish that at least, 4 to 5 projects which are designed by the youth, they are implemented. We have, there's no dearth of funds. The government of India has instituted 4 funds: ASEAN-India Cooperative Fund, Green Fund, Digital Fund, Science and Technology Fund. Money is, available, but good ideas are required. So with that, I'll stop. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ambassador, for sharing your thoughts. It was a good reminder to say that after His Majesty the Sultan of Brunei, it is really our Prime Minister, Modi, who has perhaps the longest serving leader to have attended 11 ASEAN-related summits, both ASEAN-India as well as East Asia summits. So really, that's a very good reminder. But I thought I must tell the audience here that our ambassador, Jayant Khobragade, also is very experienced on India-ASEAN relations, having organized and facilitated 8 summits, India, ASEAN, and East Asia summits. So he has huge experience. He was definitely instrumental in working towards declaring India-ASEAN Year of Tourism, as well as the maritime exercise, the first one that we undertook. And I think maritime cooperation is a very important aspect of our relationship that we should build. The other reminders from your side were the other youth-related activities. Apart from this youth summit has been the music festival. You forgot the artist retreat. You're yourself an artist. And I think that's another very important forum that we have worked towards encouraging greater youth participation, the hackathon and other exercises. And I hope that the ambassadors present here on my panel will also pay attention to some of these initiatives that have been taken in the India-ASEAN framework for encouraging greater youth participation. And to allow it to grow from strength to strength. The next speaker would be the Cambodian ambassador to India. You talked about the ITEC cooperation in the context of Timor-Leste and others, but I think, and we of course talked about overlapping memberships like with Thailand and with Myanmar we have, apart from India-ASEAN, we have of course the BRICS. And then members like Malaysia and in BIMSTEC, and then Malaysia and BRICS, and so these are all part of the global south coming together. With Cambodia, of course, apart from India, ASEAN, but within the sub-regional context, I think we are very strongly committed to our development cooperation with the CLMV countries, and Cambodia, of course, is part of that, as well as the Mekong-Ganga cooperation. Both Mekong and Ganga, 2 civilizational rivers, they are both under stress, particularly when there is a rapacious exploitation of river sources, and so that is another area where I think India and Cambodia and other ASEAN countries can definitely work together. Ambassador, for my favorite tourist destination was in fact Siam Reap. We saw the beautiful monuments in Angkor Wat and others where there is a strong Indian connect, and so look forward to hearing from you your thoughts on India-ASEAN and India-Cambodia relations. Ambassador, Your Excellency Ratmani.
Thank you. Is it working? Can you hear me? Yes. Thank you, Ambassador P.T. Saran, and Excellencies, distinguished guests, dear young participants, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor that I am invited to participate to this 5th ASEAN-India Youth Summit. At the outset, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the Indian Foundation in collaboration with the Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, the East ASEAN Foundation, the ASEAN Secretariat, and last but not least, the Government of Goa, for convening this important gathering, and not least, the Government of Goa, for convening this important gathering, and for the warm hospitality extended to me and the Cambodian delegation. India and ASEAN member states, as our previous speaker already said, share deep-rooted cultural and historical ties. For Cambodia, in particular, the magnificent structure of Angkor Wat Temple and many other temples and historic sites in Cambodia that are pervaded influencing of Hinduism and later shifted to Buddhism are true testimonies for our profound historical and cultural bond. I think it is necessary to mention that the ASEAN-India Plan of Action 2026-2030 is a framework just adopted in July 2025 to guide cooperation between ASEAN and India for the next 5 years, replacing the 2021-2025 plan. It aims to deepen the comprehensive strategic partnership by enhancing prosperity and share regional goals that supported ASEAN effort in community building, integration, and narrowing the development gap. It also recognized the contribution of India's East policy in promoting the partnership. Excellency, dear participants, there are 4 following points that I would like to brief only to raise today. First, education is always very important for every development aspect. That's why enhance educational opportunity. The proposal to increase scholarships and introduce new scholarships for ASEAN students in India University, which signifies a commitment to educational collaboration. This initiative will facilitate academic exchanges, research partnership, and skill development, enabling students from both regions to benefit from diverse educational experiences by nurturing a new generation of leaders equipped with cross-cultural competitions and competency. India and ASEAN can cultivate deeper ties in various sectors. Second, cultural exchange and people-to-people ties remain powerful foundation of ASEAN-India youth friendship. They are one of the key components of the action plan, which includes various people-centric activities like the youth summit that we are having now, and a startup festival. By promoting tourism and cultural exchanges, India and ASEAN can strengthen their people-to-people connection, fostering mutual understanding and collaboration. Increased interaction will likely lead to create a shared sense of identity and community. Third, youth and sustainable development. Several days ago, I was invited by the chairperson of the Confederation of Young Leaders, CYL, Mr. Himhamaris Suwan, to be a speaker with his members. There were so many questions raised by the young participants, and one of them is climate change, which is one of the greatest concerns for the young generation. Cambodia believes ASEAN and India should prioritize youth participation in sustainable development initiatives, projects in renewable energy, eco-tourism, sustainable agriculture, and biodiversity conservation should be developed jointly by ASEAN and India youth. The ASEAN-India Summit can be considered as a platform for innovation in addressing environmental challenges. Fourth, digital transformation and innovation. Youth are central to the rapid digitalization area that present both opportunities and challenges. Opportunity for youth include providing access to educational resources, social connection, and shaping future development. However, this reliance presents challenges such as the exposure to harmful content, online hazards, and digital inequality, especially between urban and rural areas. Having said that, ASEAN and India youth should strengthen cooperation in digital skill, AI, cybersecurity, and digital entrepreneurship. Joint initiative could encourage ASEAN and Indian youth to co-create startups, digital solutions for rural areas, and mobile flashes. There is the ASEAN India Fund for Digital Future that can partly only contribute to youth effective implementation in this aspect. Finally, the fifth one. I'm not sure this forum is suitable to talk about the clashes or conflict between Cambodia and Thailand, but since Thai ambassador have raised this issue at this forum, I just want to brief for some of you may know a little bit only, because in time is constrained, that because of the clashes or armed conflict among along the border between the two countries, there was a sea fight on 28 July 2025 that chaired by the Malaysian Prime Minister with co-sponsor from the US and very active role participation from China. But since then, after the C5, the situation is still fragile. So I agree with her that we should be trust so that this issue will be solved in a very peaceful and dialogue way, that we not have something happen like this in the future. So building trust, as she said, I agree, is very important. That's why Cambodia would like to have the ASEAN monitoring, even the international observer to monitor the situation. So, having said that, the final point is youth for peace and regional stability. Peace remains the cornerstone of regional development. Today, ASEAN and India youth must continue to be messengers of dialogue and cooperation. Their inclusion in discussion on security, resilience, and multilateral cooperation will help ensure that peace and stability remain strong across our region. In conclusion, the future of ASEAN-India relation is in the hands of our young people. By supporting them through education, cultural and people-to-people exchanges, digitalization, cooperation, and sustainable development, we can build a region that is peaceful and prosperous. On behalf of the Kingdom of Cambodia, I reaffirm our commitment to supporting youth-led initiatives and strengthening ASEAN-India cooperation. Today, you are not only tomorrow's leader, they are already the leaders of today. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. And I agree that while this is not the forum for discussing political issues, but yes, it's important for our youth to be aware of the current developments. And I'm very confident that ASEAN has had a history of resolving conflicts and problems internally within the 10 ASEAN, now 11 ASEAN countries. And I'm sure this will be done so peacefully with, of course, dialogue and discussion. And that's exactly where we are. And I can tell you and assure you that India will be always supportive of the ASEAN consensus and what's done within the ASEAN and, shall I say, the India-ASEAN family. And in that, I have to say that as far as Cambodia is concerned, I was looking at your beautiful costume, Your Excellency, and I have to say that textiles, we have Textiles is another thing that binds India and ASEAN very closely together, and Cambodia and Siem Reap is actually the home to the museum, textiles museum that has been set up as part of our Mekong-Ganga cooperation. But of course, the textiles that are common are to all of the 10 ASEAN countries, the 11 ASEAN countries, as well as to India. So that's another binding factor. Talking of connectivity, Ambassador Jayant Khobregade talked about, flights that have contributed. So here I have to recognize the presence of the former Vietnamese ambassador to India, Ambassador Pham San Chao, who was instrumental actually in starting direct flights between India and Ambassador Pham San Chao in our bilateral relations of trade and investment to the relationship. And talking of investment and trade, our last speaker, and I'm sorry I got the name wrong, initially when I had introduced our colleague from Singapore, is the largest trading partner in ASEAN for India, as well as the largest investor. And coming from Mumbai, of course, we look forward to hearing your perspective on the trade, investment, and economic front of our bilateral relations, both with India and Singapore, as well as India and ASEAN. So you have the floor, sir.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, namaste, good morning. And thank you to India Foundation and the organizers for having me here and allow me to share a perspective from Singapore's perspective about ASEAN-India relations and the way forward. I am aware that time is creeping up on us, and I'm the last of about 10 speakers. The peril of speaking last is that everyone else has said what I want to say. And much more distinguished speakers at that. But I will abbreviate the points I want to make into two main points, neither of which are new, but I think worth reiterating. Firstly, we have heard, and especially this morning in the previous panel very forcefully, how we're in this world of transition. Unipolarity is gone, bipolarity may not arrive, multipolarity will most likely be the new order. And in this new multipolar world that is emerging, India is undoubtedly, with its heft, with its economic growth, it is undoubtedly a major pole. And so is ASEAN. Our combined GDP can top the top two, in fact, economically speaking. So there's all the world, and all the more that we should collaborate and join our efforts to shape this new order. As a wiser boss, ex-boss once told me and has repeatedly said since then, this world that we see now of being unsettled, of wars, of tension, has always been the historical norm, in fact. And when we talk about weaponization of trade, for example, in the past, imperialist powers literally opened markets at gunpoint. I'm afraid there's nothing new. But India and ASEAN are very well placed and complement each other to work together to form, as best we can, a new, stable, rules-based order, and especially in our region, an inclusive rules-based order, where states, big or small, have an equal say as we chart our path forward. Against this rather gloomy backdrop, I think the theme of this summit is all the more relevant. Connectivity, connections among us takes on an extra urgency. We have already heard repeatedly yesterday and today about the ancient links that link India to Southeast Asia. In fact, my very first posting as a Foreign Service officer back in 1999 was to Phnom Penh. And I visited Siem Reap 4 times, and as Ambassador Preeti said, Angkor Wat is beyond words. It's amazing. But the Indian civilization's imprint on Southeast Asia is not limited to Angkor Wat. As we have already heard, no country in Southeast Asia is untouched by the Indian civilization. Sure, there were some disruptions due to various geopolitical developments in the past 60 years. But in the past decade especially, with India's Act East policy, I think we are on much firmer footing to build links for the future. And therefore, the themes of this summit, being future-oriented, are especially relevant now, and particularly because we are among a room full of youths. You hold our future. So what are the themes? Well, you have already gone through them, and there are breakout sessions about them. Sustainability, the digital age, the challenges faced in governing AI, entrepreneurship. Let's take a couple of examples where ASEAN and India have already taken some steps. The digital economy. ASEAN and India are home to some of the world's fastest growing digital economies, and there's scope to broaden existing collaboration, including on digital payments, financial inclusion, and digital connectivity. I believe the Reserve Bank of India was welcomed into phase 4 of ASEAN's Project Nexus last year, through which we hope to improve the cost, speed, access, and transparency of cross-border payments in time to come. ASEAN also hopes to conclude negotiations on the Digital Economy Framework Agreement sometime this year. And it is projected to double the value of our region's digital economy to some $2 trillion by 2030. ASEAN can complement this with India's strengths in digital trade and India's leading role in the technology and AI space. For instance, we can explore ways to extend India's expertise with digital public goods, such as its UPI, to the ASEAN level, since it has already been linked up with the Singapore equivalent. Just to take another example in your theme of the green economy, very quickly, ASEAN and India are, as we all know, experiencing rapid economic growth and urbanization, and therefore rising energy demand. Collaboration on the green economy will ensure that our mutual growth remains sustainable. And one potential area could be the ASEAN power grid. ASEAN power grid requires sizable capital investments, especially for example, subsea power cables and interconnectors, and even overland connections. We welcome Indian companies to partner with their Southeast Asian counterparts to develop the infrastructure needed for greener energy projects, as well as interconnectivity. And India is very well placed to do this because it already has a lot of expertise in low carbon solutions, such as solar power, and as was already mentioned, India is a co-founder of the International Solar Alliance. So India, we see it as playing an important role in helping ASEAN to generate low carbon solutions and establishing the norms and regulations for sustainable power generation. Let me conclude by drawing our attention to the big picture again. I know it's a rather gloomy one that I painted earlier, and it should be of grave concern to anyone who cares about the future, as I'm sure all of you do as youths. So these future-oriented themes are a way of prompting you to think more deeply and to discuss with each other on solutions as you chart your own future. We can overcome challenges. Our region has proven extremely resilient in overcoming all the challenges that have been thrown at us in the past. I want to end on an optimistic note, therefore. what I've described just now, the various ASEAN-India platforms, mechanisms, agreements, governments can build those building blocks, but like Lego bricks, you play with them. Build them to your liking, and I'm sure you can look forward to a bright future. Thank you again to India Foundation for the hospitality. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Foong, for sharing your thoughts and your first-hand experiences on both India-ASEAN as well as India-Singapore relations, where you focused on digital economy and sustainable development and green technologies. And that's really for the youth present here today to also focus on as future areas of collaboration. We have just a few minutes more left. We've been kindly given an extra time, and I can see 3, 4, 5, 6 hands already at the back. I'll open the floor for questions. Maybe we'll take a set of 3 questions first, and I can see that table first. So 3 hands on that one table. It'll be easy to pass the mic. Can you just kindly stand up on that table? We will take 3 questions from that table before we pass the floor. Please identify yourself, and then also please identify whom you're addressing that question to, so that we can then allow the response from our side. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you for the opportunity. My name is Ejalina Marquez Cabral. I'm from Timor-Leste. I'm a student studying in informatic engineering. So I would like to directly ask to Our Excellency Giant, Mr. Giant, and Mr. Jerome from Singapore. So as a young Timorese, we're really excited with the partnership and networking with India. The inspirations in ICT, information communication technology, from India to us Timorese has been a key important pillars. So the question is, do India and ASEAN have any advice for us as a Timorese youth to be better trained in ICT, NI, and also cybersecurity so we don't fall behind globally? And is India and ASEAN itself has preparation on planning partnership to increase Timor-Leste capacity on the technologies that nowadays so grow? Thank you so much, and that's the question.
Thank you so much for those 2 very good questions addressed to Ambassador Khobragade and to Mr. Foong. I'll ask them to respond, but I'll take 2 more questions from the same table in the interest of time. Yes, you have the floor.
Once again, thank you very much for the time for Timor-Leste. Here I want to ask the question to Your Excellency, the Ambassador, Thailand to India, and Your Excellency Cambodia to India, related to women's empowerment in leadership and decision making. As you know that Timor-Leste is a young country that young women still face challenges how to participate in leadership role and also participating in decision making process. We want to get best experiences from Your Excellencies how the humans able to participate in leadership role, especially being ambassador. And the second one, what is the challenges that human face being ambassador? Because we stay far away from our family, and also as a woman, we have various roles in professional and personals. And how do we overcome them? And also related to the human's roles, as I have mentioned, like in professional and personals, and how we balance to ensure that our responsibilities is met with the families and also our role that we hold as an ambassador. And the last one, we talk about the human's economic empowerment, like Timor-Leste, mostly dependence on oil and gas. What is your advice to young Timorese, especially young women, to be active and participate in economic empowerment to contribute to ensure the sustainability of the countries? Thank you.
Thank you once again for those very important questions. Can we move to another table, or are the questions all from the Timor-Leste? Okay, please go ahead, yes. But very quickly, if you can be please brief, so
Good
that we can move to
afternoon.
another table as well. Yeah.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Tamanna. I'm representing India. So it's an open question. So what has been your observation in terms of cross-border trade and investments between India and Asia, and the gaps that you think must be addressed for long-term economic development? Thank you.
Thank you, Tamanna. You have posed this question, a very important one, to all the panelists. So I think that will give us, our fellow panelists, at least 2 minutes each to respond to. Maybe just one last question at that table, and then we'll start the responses so that we can complete on time. Yes. Is that Siddhant? Yes, Siddhant, you have the floor. Please.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you, India Foundation. Siddhant Hira here, Senior Research Associate at NASTRAT. This is a question for the panel on ASEAN's and India's Indo-Pacific strategies. What can both actors do to complement the strategy in terms of implementation? Thank you.
Thank you, Siddhant. I'll now request our panelists to kindly respond to specific questions that have been posed to Ambassador Jayant Khobragade and to Mr. Foong, and that is on what advice for better training on ICT and cybersecurity for the delegation of Timor-Leste, but I guess it can be applicable to others, and of course on capacity building. And then, so we can start from this end, and then of course I'll request our ambassadors from Thailand and Cambodia to address those specific questions about partnership in leadership roles, as well as empowerment of women and challenges that have been faced in decision making. And of course, then as we go down to His Excellency the High Commissioner of Malaysia to respond to the general questions posed by Tamanna on gaps in trade, which of course the other panelists are also free to respond to, the gaps in trade that have been faced, and finally the last question that was posed by Siddhant Hira to what is it that we can do more in improving the relationship. So Mr. Foong, could I request you to please start? And then request for very brief answers, but thank you.
Yes, there are two very quick answers to Timorese delegate regarding IT training, cybersecurity. I don't know all these minute details, but Timor-Leste is going to be an ASEAN member soon, and there is ahead of that already a lot of training programs, and as a full ASEAN member, there will also be a lot of participation from Timor-Leste. Singapore hosts the ASEAN-Singapore Cybersecurity Center of Excellence. It's been around for, I think, 6 or 7 years by now, and is one of the key agencies leading from the Singapore side is our cybersecurity agency, CSA. And as I mentioned, once Timor-Leste becomes a full member, I'm sure you will be participating in many of the programs that they run in conjunction with other ASEAN countries, which will hopefully build up the capacities on that front. At a more general policy level, I understand that last year, during a big IT, what we call the Singapore International Cyber Week, which is a big annual conference we host every year, at the sidelines, I understand the Philippines and India co-chaired, in fact, the inaugural ASEAN-India Cyber Policy Dialogue. But that's okay, that's rather at the policy level. I'm sure there will be a concrete work program out soon, which Timor-Leste will be fully participating in and shaping as a full member soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador Khobragade, but request you kindly to be very
sure,
quick
sure.
about the response.
Sure. So thank you so much for this question. See, the cooperation with Timor-Leste can happen at different levels. First is ASEAN-India framework. We already have established center of excellence in, for example, Laos, PDR, Cambodia, and in Vietnam and Thailand, they are at different stages, this is pertaining to ICT. So there is also an idea to establish similar center in Timor-Leste. I think Ambassador of Timor-Leste to India is more aware about the final details of that. That's first part. Then, we also do a lot of capacity building program because we have exclusive fund for, for digital future cooperation. And, like this year, We already have processed, 10 such proposals, so Timor-Leste can always participate in that. At bilateral level also, because now, as announced by Honorable Prime Minister in September 23, during ASEAN India East Asia Summits, we established last year our independent mission, embassy in Delhi. And they are also coordinating, and we have number of programs, bilateral programs, for example, Indian Technical Economic Cooperation Program. So Timor-Leste can also participate. Ma'am, there was one question on the trade, so I would briefly like to respond. Our trade between India and ASEAN happens within the framework of ASEAN-India Trade in Goods Agreement. Now, this is, more than a decade-old agreement. Therefore, we have decided to undertake a review to make it contemporary and modern. So 10 review meetings have taken place. Last one was in this month in Delhi, and we are hoping to, conclude those negotiations as early as possible to make it modern and, to increase our trade relationship. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We are absolutely out of time, but still would request Ambassador Rathmani to quickly respond.
Thank you. I will answer the question from the Timor-Leste young participant. First, about the youth powering, and second, also powering, but for women, right? So for me, in Cambodia, I can give you a very specific example and the reality that one of my presenter yesterday from Cambodia delegation has already mentioned is about the leadership in the government currently are all very young. Since after the general election 2023, we have replaced almost more than 2 years now. They have been performed very well, and they are very, in order to be in the leadership position, you must be a very educated person. You must learn and must study. So for the question about women, yeah, I give me as an example how to become an ambassador as a lady ambassador. Actually, it's not as easy as men. But if you had a wish and you had the will as a diplomat, then you can do it. But as mentioned earlier, you have to be educated, you have to study, and you have the same as a leader. That's by, capacity, resources is need, people that with skill, with education. So please try your best to study hard and to learn as much as you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. I think the message is do your best. But here I must share one of my favorite quotations. When I was asked this question about challenges as an ambassador, as a woman ambassador, and my quote is from a former mayor of Ottawa, and she said, "Whatever women do, they must do it twice as well as men to be thought half as good. Luckily, that is not difficult," unquote. Ambassador.
Thank you, and I totally agree with Ambassador Rathmani. And I think, to overcome the challenge for being women ambassadors, we need to be empathy and have kind. We have to have the open and direct communication based on facts rather than feelings in order to overcome all the problems. And when we face with the question of partnership and leadership, especially in time of tension or any conflict, we have to really base on the facts that how can we make sure that these problems occur and how we can compromise with each other in order to make the win-win solution, in order to save our friendship, right? And then we have to make everyone's respect their own promise in order to overcome all the problems. And that, I think, it will make us being the good ambassador to have the active listening to what our counterpart says, and be kind, be empathy to our counterpart, and then I think that will bring us to overcome all the challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. We've run out of time, so I'll beg the forgiveness of our two ambassadors. Would you like to still say something? Because we've run out of time. We can? Just a minute each, Your Excellencies.
I think I would just like to address on the question about how we can promote more trade and investment between ASEAN and India. I think now, at the moment, we already have the framework between ASEAN and India under, for example, like ASEAN-India Trade in Goods Agreement. And at the same time, we have also at bilateral level, we have, for example, like in Malaysia. For Malaysia, we have Malaysia-India Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement. I think the platform is already there, the framework is already there. What needs to be done is, I think, there are three things which we need to try to improve and to address, for example, like in terms of the policy and regulatory environment, trade facilitation, and also investment promotion. I think we need to have more promotional activities in terms of creating more awareness for businesses between our two regions, and then to have a greater trade and investment relation. Because at the moment, most of the ASEAN countries, we have China as our biggest trading partner. We hope soon India would also become our larger trading partner with more robust and also more aggressive trade promotion between our two nations.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Just last word, yes, very quickly.
Thank you. Since the Timor-Leste and India established bilateral cooperations and also diplomatic relations in 2003, there are many high-level dignitaries visit, and last year Honorable President Draupadi Murmu visited Timor-Leste. Since that, we have signed 2 or 3 agreements, and MAU. One agreement is Center Excellence for IT, and it will be started soon. It's a partnership with the National University. So yeah, for young Timorese will be chance to participate this capacity building or trainings. And also another program is for young Timorese will be chance to participate ongoing is MBBS, that's the cooperation that we have in Timor-Leste. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It's been a pleasure chairing this panel of such eminent speakers, and thank you for your response to the specific questions. We've run out of time, and otherwise we could have continued, but thank you very much.
Before we wind up this session, we have a quick announcement. We'll be starting with our policy labs from 12:30. Now we move towards our felicitation ceremony. So may I request the chair of the session, Ambassador Preeti Saran, to kindly felicitate our speakers. May I now request General Dhruv Katoch, Director of the India Foundation, to kindly come to the dais and felicitate Ambassador Preeti Saran. We thank all our speakers for gracing us with their time and knowledge, and thank you all. With this, we wind up this session.